Hello, good afternoon. We hope everybody is getting inside the hall. Honorable Minister of Environment, Director General of REMA, distinguished guests, partners, colleagues, and friends, good afternoon once again. It's a pleasure to welcome you all to this Rwanda celebration of International Day of Clean Air for Blue Skies and the International Day of the Preservation of Ozone Layer here at the African Center of Excellence for Sustainable Cooling and Cold Chain Systems. My name is Cyprien Jendahimana, and I'm honored to be your moderator today. I'm in charge of communications at the Rwanda Environment Management Authority. Today, we are celebrating two important global occasions, reflecting on Rwanda's efforts to play its role in improving the quality of the air we breathe and protecting ozone layer, a shield that protects all life on Earth. Before we begin, a few housekeeping matters. Refreshments are available outside the hall. Restrooms are located through the door at the rear side of the hall. And today's event is being live streamed on REMA's YouTube channel. We welcome everyone joining us online. As part of these year celebrations, Rwanda organized a range of activities to engage citizens, raise awareness, and strengthening emissions reduction measures, including an inspection of high-emitting factories across Kigali, Bugesera, Rwamagana, and Musanze. Those parts are industrial zones. We also conducted the media campaign on Rwanda's emission inspection program, targeting audiences in Kigali, Rwamagana, and Musanze. And finally, we had a race for clean air at Nyandungu Eco Park, engaging children, parents in a fun and educational activities. And of course, today is the official celebration of Clean Air and International Day for Preservation of the Ozone Layer. I hope you enjoyed the exhibition with companies leading the charge to protect our air and the ozone layer in general at the arches. This time, our special thanks go to Kabisa, Sports, Basgo, Delagua, RIP, and Surf Mobility. A big round of applause to those companies. On Saturday, REMA hosted the first ever race for clean air at Nyandungu Eco Park. The event brought together kids from Kigali Parent School and groups Collège Remera Catholique, as well as families and communities for morning dedicated to fitness, fun, and raise awareness about the importance of clean air. Let's take a look at a short video that highlights how the fun was at Nyandungu Eco Park.
I feel competitive and excited.
I feel so good to come here, and I want to make my school so proud.
It's such a joy to celebrate International Clean Air Day in such a different fashion. Whether you're going to come first, or you're going to come second, or you're going to come third, or you're going to just reach the finish line, we are all champions. I want to just mention that it's not just a race, it is actually running for our future. And what that means is we are going to be thinking about what we are going to do to improve the quality of the air we breathe.
We want to convey the message and raise awareness on the importance of having a clean air. We are giving the message to all Rwandans through the kids that we need to embrace new technology like electric mobility, which is helping us to reduce emissions from transport, embracing new technology of using renewable energy, using gas for cooking, and others which can help us to reduce the emissions we have, which are polluting our air.
I'm so proud that I became the second in the race.
Clean air!
Thank you so much. I hope you enjoyed the video. And of course, every kid was a champion of the race. Before we begin, I would like to take you through today's program. We will start with welcome remarks from Director General of REMA, followed by opening remarks by Honorable Minister of the Environment. And after our introductory speeches, we will hold a knowledge sharing session on air quality and ozone layer protection. The African Institute for Mathematical Science will present on air quality, and Archer's team will present on research findings on ozone and climate change. Thereafter, we will host a Q&A session, so be sure to have your question ready and contribution to be ready. Without further ado, I invite the Director General of REMA, Juliet Kabera, to deliver the welcome remarks. Thank you so much.
Good afternoon. Midway. To be honest, Cyprien did a great job of delivering my own remarks. So I have nothing to deliver more other than to again extend our deepest gratitude that you made time available for this very important celebration. We are celebrating Clean Air Day for Blue Skies. We are celebrating Ozone Day, International Ozone Day, which is also coinciding with the 40 years of existence of the Vienna Convention on ozone protection. So he did take you through what we've been doing throughout the week. We had a week-long celebration of activities extending awareness, information to different segments of the community, but also observing what are the gaps, what else needs to be done. So those we have seen, and we're very happy that our partners are here with us. Thanks to all the partners who are here. Without you, we cannot go so far. Honestly, that's the reality. So we appreciate that you made time to be with us, and you've been trusting and walking the journey with us, both in reducing the pollution, but also implementing the Montreal Protocol, the Vienna Convention. And we don't do this just to, tick the box that we're in compliance with the international obligations. We do this because it matters, because it's necessary for the day-to-day life to live in a clean atmosphere for better lives. So again, wishing you a good afternoon. Hope you all enjoyed the exhibition. It was too much knowledge shared in one hour, but we'll keep learning, obviously, and keep asking questions where we didn't understand. For now, allow me to invite the Honorable Minister of Environment, Dr. Arakwiye, to come and deliver her keynote speech for this celebration. Thank you.
Mwiriwe nanone, nizere ko mwese mumeze neza, ka cold and clean air kari kubageraho bimeze neza. Yego. Distinguished guests, development partners, colleagues, and friends of the environment, I think we are missing the children that were doing the race. But good afternoon again, everyone. It is an honor to join you here today as we celebrate the International Day of Clean Air for Blue Skies and the International Day of the Preservation of the Ozone Layer. I want to begin by thanking the African Center of Excellence for Sustainable Cooling and Cold Chain for hosting us here at this beautiful campus, and the exhibitors for innovative work that you are leading and for taking the time to share it with us today. Thank you so much. I think they deserve another round of applause. And allow me to take you a few years in the back, when the hole in the ozone layer was first discovered over 40 years ago. The scientific community swung into action, and thanks to compelling science, the world raced into action and found a solution. And in a large part, we have been successful. This anniversary, it's a moment of pride for all of us. Few international agreements have achieved what the Vienna Convention, the Montreal Protocol, and the Kigali Amendment have achieved. They have united the world in science-based action that is delivering results today. And thanks to these agreements, ozone-depleting substances have been drastically reduced. The ozone layer is on the road to recovery, and we are also contributing to addressing climate change. And as a party to these agreements, Rwanda has made significant progress in phasing out harmful substances, strengthening enforcement, and raising awareness. Today, we are building on these achievements through national strategy and innovation. Rwanda is very proud to host the ACS here in Rubirizi. This center is not only serving our country, but also supporting knowledge exchange, training, and technology transfer across Africa, as we just heard this afternoon. It is a strong symbol of Rwanda's role in advancing solutions that combine ozone protection, energy efficiency, food security, and climate resilience. And through the Rwanda Cooling Initiative, supported by the Green Climate Fund, we are also working to ensure that cooling in homes, in hospitals, in our business, and across the agriculture value chains is both sustainable and accessible. And this is critical because cooling touches every part of our economy and society. And to be honest, we are headed into new, unusual times, and this technology is no longer going to be just a luxury, it's going to be a necessity for our everyday life. Now we must do the same for air pollution. Rwanda is investing in broad measures to improve air quality, and earlier this year, we launched an enhanced state-of-the-art vehicle emission inspection program. This program uses advanced technology to identify and penalize highly polluting vehicles while guiding drivers towards cleaner practice. Again, I think we just had a great demonstration a few minutes ago about how this emission testing is done, and also the advice and the guidance that is provided to the car owners, vehicle owners. And alongside this, our national air quality monitoring system provides real-time information that strengthens enforcement and raises awareness among citizens. In addition, we are also promoting sustainable mobility. This is what we started with this afternoon. And we are investing in alternatives to wood and charcoal for cooking and expanding urban forestry so we can all breathe a little easier. Excellencies, distinguished guests, 40 years of the Vienna Convention remind us of what is possible when knowledge, solidarity, and determination come together. The ozone layer is recovering, and that is a direct result of bold choices made and implemented consistently across nations. And for Rwanda, this legacy is a call for greater action. We will continue to pursue policies and investments that align environmental protection with national development, ensuring that everyone can breathe cleaner air, our businesses can innovate responsibly, and future generations inherit a safe and stable climate. And let us take inspiration from this anniversary, not as a commemoration of the past, but as a springboard into the future where ozone protection, sustainable cooling, and climate actions are fully embedded in how we grow, trade, and live. I once again thank you all for your commitment and wish you a productive exchange during today's program. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Minister, for your insightful remarks. We are grateful for your presence here. I think Honorable Minister deserves another round of applause. Now it's time for our session for knowledge sharing. We will start with a presentation that will be made by Jean-Remy Kubgimana. He's a PhD candidate in climate health. Please join me to welcome Jean-Remy Kubgimana.
Good afternoon once again. Okay, thank you very much, IT team. My name is Jean-Remy Kubgimana. I'm a PhD candidate in a climate and health program at AIMS Research Innovation Center, and I'm here on behalf of my supervisor, who is called Professor Raphael from University of Massachusetts, USA. He couldn't make it to deliver his talk today, and I'm here on his behalf. So starting from the global overview, thank you very much. Starting from the global overview about air pollution and even its health impact, we have seen that nowadays we are really celebrating this day, but as well, again, trying to protect the residents by not polluting much pollution. Then, when it comes to the effect of air pollution and even noise pollution, we have seen that there are some effects related to air pollution when you are exposed to those levels. We have stroke and even chronic pulmonary diseases and even lung cancer and even pneumonia. Plus to that, we have also some health effects associated to exposure to noise pollution, like hearing losses, sleep disturbance, impaired cognitive, and even cardiocognitive diseases. Those are some of the health effects associated to the exposure to ambient air pollution. So when you look at Africa in general, due to the result of urbanization, population growth, and even weak policies in some of the countries, we also have some old infrastructure which can contribute to much levels of air pollution in Africa. So we are really in our continent Africa having much levels compared to other countries, like we are having much levels compared to other countries in the world. So those are due to the limited challenges we are having, like limited data availability, where we cannot have levels of air pollution, and again, it is difficult to assess the sources without having data, and again, lack of a standard. In some countries, they don't have standard to be based on while assessing health impact of air pollution. The same economic constraint, because like buying monitors, different monitors, they really require money to buy those monitors. But in some countries, they might have economic constraint of not having those sensors. So that's why when you look at that slide, you can see that when you look at the global density of monitoring stations across the world, Africa is the one which is lagging behind in monitoring stations, like compared to America, Europe, and even Asia. That's a problem to us as a continent, which cannot allow us to monitor air pollution and even noise pollution. So from there, that's why Kigali City Study was launched to monitor both noise and even air pollution in Kigali by trying to go down to lowest administrative unit, like a village in Kigali. So with the objective of having to undertake a measurement campaign of air pollution and even noise parameter at high resolution, high spatial resolution, and again do statistical analysis across land use categories and even seasons. The third objective was about to develop a statistical model for environmental pollution prediction. Then, during the data collection phase, we were having 120 sites and even 10 fixed sites. The 101 are represented by green color, and even fixed sites were represented by red color over there. So those 130 sites combined together helped us to understand how the sources are being, how the noise and even air pollution were polluted in the atmosphere from different locations of Kigali. Then the key during the monitoring campaign and even data collection, we also focus on 4 and even 5 areas: commercial area, residential neighborhood, transportation facility, industrial area, and even background. The pollutant of interest was about PM2.5, black carbon, nitrogen oxide, and even noise parameter. So after the phase of data collection, we end up by trying to understand how the variation of air pollution was looking like across the city. From that image, we can see that PM2.5 concentration in Kigali was much high in the sites which were closer to the road compared to urban locations, like when you look at in the north of the city, we can see that there was not much concentration of PM2.5, but when you look at the city center, like Nyabugogo, Gitega, Chinamba, there we had a high concentration of PM2.5. The same to the land use categories. CBI is commercial, business, industries, is the area which was having high concentration of PM2.5, followed by high residential area, then low residential area, and even the background or having lower concentration of PM2.5. So the next was about black carbon, and our interest was all about to understand how the black carbon looks like across the entire study area, Kigali City, and the same as PM2.5, Even black carbon again, the locations which were closer to the road were the ones which were having the highest concentration compared to the peri-urban locations, even rural locations. So again, for black carbon, even CBI, commercial business, and industrial location, followed by high density residential area, were the ones having high concentration compared to lower residential area and even background site. So by looking at the temporal trend, how the weather variables might influence the concentration of PM2.5, we have seen that during rainy season in March, April, and May, we had the lower levels of PM2.5 and get high during sunny season, dry season, from June, July, and August, and get at the lower again in the rainy season from October and November. This shows that the environmental variables like temperature, relative humidity, they also contribute to the levels, to the high levels of PM2.5 concentration. So by looking at for the black carbon as well, this one is nitrogen oxide. Nitrogen oxide, we also wanted to see the spatial variation of nitrogen oxide across the Kigali city. The same as PM and even black carbon, we have seen that nitrogen oxide will match on the sites which are closer to the road and even get lower when we are going back, we are going far away from the city center, especially you can see from Gikomero, Rutunga, and even Masaka, the same to Majerajere. We had there the lowest levels of nitrogen oxide. But when we consider the city center, like downtown, and even Sonatib, there we had highest levels of nitrogen oxide, both on NO2 and even NO. So after that, we also want to see if the spatial variation showed that the levels will match on a city center. What about if we consider temporal variation? Temporal variation of it, we have seen the same trend as of PM2.5, where in March, April, and even May, we had the lower levels of nitrogen oxide, and even they get high when we are getting to summer season during June, July, and even August. June, July, and even August. And even when we are going to rainy season during October, November, even the levels of nitrogen oxide get reduced as well. And the main contributor was from CBI site, commercial business and the industrial, and even having high density residential area, thank you very much, and even background and low residential areas were having lower values compared to those two I've mentioned. So after PM2.5 and even nitrogen oxide, now our interest was all about to see if we have seen the concentration of PM2.5, nitrogen oxide, what about noise pollution in Kigali? As our country has been doing great to monitor noise pollution, how does it look like across the country? So these maps, the first map is all about noise pollution during the daytime. Noise pollution during the daytime, and even the second one is the noise pollution during the night time. So the same as PM2.5 and even nitrogen oxide, so the locations which were closer to the road, the city center had highest noise levels, while the background sites had the lowest noise levels compared to the ones in the city center. So which means that the traffic-related sites had highest concentration levels of air pollution and even noisy pollution. So from there, from the spatial variation, The next interest was all about to understand how do they look like from morning to evening hours by comparing the national standard from residential, commercial, and even the rural, the silent zones. We have seen that we as Rwanda, we are complying with the commercial and even industrial limit. We are below those limits, 75 and even 65. But when it comes to residential, we are a bit above that limit of 55 during the daytime. The same to silent zone from across our locations, which is the 50 decibels during the daytime. So then, having those concentration and even levels of noise pollution, how our people living in Kigali being exposed to those levels? Gasabo, as one of the district which is having less population density, was having lower noise levels, 54 decibels, but Nyarugenge was having the highest levels, which is 58. But as well, they are complying to the national standard for commercial and even industrial. But for residential, which is 55 during the daytime, we are surpassing the limit. When you look at how people are being exposed to it, we can see that almost some people, 21%, they are above the national limit for daytime, which is 55 decibels. The same to nighttime, where almost 13%, they are above the nighttime limits, which is 45 decibels for nighttime. Then, as a conclusion, air pollution exceeds the WHO interim target, but when we look at the national target, we are complying. We are not complying the WHO, which is 15, and even 5. But when we look at the national limit, which is 35 and 75, we are complying. Maybe the next target can be, how can we also comply to the WHO limit if we are complying to the national limit? And again, road transport related sources were identified as the main contributor to urban pollution. And again, we can also, the data which are being made or planned can also be based on the data so that they can have accurate information about what is happening to the field. So then there we can think about what if we do not have monitoring stations in the country. What can be done? What can we do? So if we don't have monitoring stations across the country, we can end up by having ambient air pollution will become a major health risk. Having no monitoring station in the country, death from cardiovascular diseases and even pollution-related diseases will be much compared to what we are currently having. And again, economic costs will be high, like healthcare, the money which are being used to take care of the patients, and even the use of human capital, and even the non-communicable diseases will be worse across the country if we don't have any monitoring stations like heart, stroke, and even others. The last one is greater health burdens. More illness and even premature death will be much, especially for vulnerable citizens. Now, so we recommend the institution in charge to expand the national ground-based monitoring network in the country, because so far, if we look at the system we have so far, we are still having like a sparse monitoring station in the country. If we increase the density of the monitoring stations, we'll be able also to understand what is really happening on the site, then accelerate the clean energy transition from fuel-based cars to electric cars, and even in our homes, from not using charcoals to to gas, using gas so that we can reduce the emissions from homes, and even promote green city and advocate for healthier reasons, car-free Sundays on the first and even third Sundays. I think this one is currently being done. Regular vehicle emissions inspections, this one is so great nowadays. And again, car-free zones and even tax waiver for electrical vehicles. And even lastly, advanced research on capacity building. So far, when you look at in Rwanda, the research which are being conducted to assess the association between exposure to ambient air pollution and even health-related risks, we are having little researches. So if we also advance support studies on health impact on air pollution, it can be also great, and again promote research on pollution sources, tracing, and exposure sciences. Because having 25 as a microgram at this location, without knowing it is from this source, this one, it's also biased. We also encourage or recommend to institutions in charge to promote research on pollution sources, tracing, and exposure sciences. So lastly, this is our research group led by Professor Raphael, and the rest are, we have Dr. Harrison, Dr. Patel, and even others, a PhD student, and even a master's student. So from there, I'd like to thank you everyone for your kind attention to this presentation.
The last part of his presentation says it all. What could happen if we did not opt to take action to preserve the air we breathe? This is the question that each and everybody here should ask themselves. Thank you so much, Jean-Remy, for an insightful presentation. I would like to remind you that we will host a Q&A session. Be sure that you have your questions and any contribution ready to ask when we host the Q&A session. I would like to invite Basile Sewurikoko to give his presentation. Basile is a technical director here at the Africa Center of Excellence for Sustainable Cooling and Cold Chain. Join me in welcoming Basile for this insightful presentation.
Thank you.
Hello, some technical help. No. I need, look, for example, you see, if I, next slide. No, at the back. It's just here. Ah. Okay, I'm told that they'll be doing it at the back. Okay, thank you. Let's start. I'm Basil Sebrikoko, the Technical Director of ACES. I'm very happy to have this presentation. So we are going to talk about sustainable cold chain, which is really also very important for this topic because we cannot talk about sustainability in the cold chain without protecting the ozone layer. And also we know that in terms of refrigeration, real refrigerant plays a bigger role in the destruction of the ozone layer. In that case, we are talking about the CFCs. Myself and my colleague that will come after, so we are going to try to see how we are doing the effort to make sure the cold chain really remains sustainable. Next. Yes, let's see some technical aspects that really makes our system sustainable. In a cold chain, we cannot talk about sustainability with forgetting the energy because the most part of it really is the energy use. And even the challenges that we have in implementing the adequate cold chain is the availability of the energy. We have the availability, we have also the sustainability of it, affordability, and the environmental impact. When we are talking about the environment itself, even the energy can have an impact once you're trying to develop a cold chain system. Because we know what we call scope 1 and the scope 2 emission. So in this case here, we are talking about the scope 2 emission, whereby if you have a technology that's not sustainable in terms of energy or which is less energy efficiency, you will still emit indirectly gas that's going to affect the climate in general. In this case, it's not necessarily the ozone layer, but we'll talk about it's about the climate change. And we'll reach out where we're going to emphasize on the ozone layer. But when we are talking about the sustainability of the cold chain itself, so there is a lot of things that we need to see all together. Next, please. Another important point now is the refrigerant. And that's where the ozone layer aspect is coming in. Refrigerant itself, it's really where we are trying to emphasize and put our effort to make sure that we minimize the refrigerant emission. Some of you that had a chance to go and have a tour of this campus, you really realize how we emphasize on training technicians on handling the equipment. So refrigerant itself, when it's in the closed equipment, let's say in a cold room or air condition, whatever, inside, it cannot affect anything because it's not in the environment. But it's almost impossible to avoid the leakages. And most of the time, the leakages there, as you can see in the first picture up there, where there is a junks, that's where we have leakages. And when emission starts, the gas is emitted in the atmosphere, then it starts to bring these issues that we know about. A second thing is the knowledge, for sure. You can look at that air condition down there. That's in what you call outdoor unit. Some locations, that's a picture taken somewhere. You'll find that the installation is really done in the wrong way. The blowing side of the condenser is facing the wall, which is really wrong. It's going to affect the whole thing. It will be the other way around. Next slide, please. Now, if you're trying to have a look on the pathway we went through with refrigerant, we started by chlorofluorocarbons, which are normal, what you call the CFCs. As you can see, that had really impact on the ozone and also on the global warming. Here we can say, for example, R12, R11, likely the refrigerant that are no longer used in Rwanda and in more countries. As our dear minister said also, the ozone layer now is recovering
thanks to all the effort of all of us trying to minimize the emission of those refrigerants. And the good news is the ozone layer is recovering itself. So now the next step was the HCFCs. This tried to minimize the impact of the HFCs in the ozone, but didn't really reduce it at all or remove that impact 100%, but just reduce a little bit. But the global warming issue was still there. Then we went to another step with HFCs. We tried to remove the chlorine there to have the impact on the ozone. Yes, it was a success because finally we went out the issues with the ozone layer, but unfortunately, those are high, they have high level of global warming potential. Here we have like a refrigerant called, like, let's say, R410, R404, and more of them. And finally, we have what we call HFOs, which is good on ozone and good on global warming, but still have some other health issues. And this refrigerant is not really used much in Rwanda. The green ones, I like that's the green. Those are the natural refrigerant, and there we go to our Kigali amendment. And I think our effort in Rwanda should be to transit, let's say, from HFCs to natural refrigerant without focusing on HFOs, because there are discussions around that HFOs, as I said previously, regarding the health issues of it. But as also I said, in Rwanda we don't have much, but in developing countries, they're really using them, and I'm not seeing them stopping very soon. Maybe Craig will give us a talk about it. Next slide, please. Can I get some water? Thank you. Yes. Now, as we are talking about natural refrigerant, what are those refrigerants that we are really encouraged to be using? We have ammonia. Thank you so much. That's kind. Thank you. Yes. We have ammonia, we have hydrocarbon, and also CO2. What is interesting fact here is that when refrigeration technology started some years ago, I think around 200 years or 150 years back, the refrigerant that was used that time was this natural refrigerant. These are the natural refrigerants that were used that time, but they had an issue of safety, because as we'll see now, this refrigerant, we have an issue because ammonia is toxic, hydrocarbon is highly flammable, and also CO2 is also causing issues of, some issues of safety also. Now they said, no, we need to go in the laboratory and come up with a magic refrigerant. They came up with, which one? Guess. CFCs, which was good at that time because it solved the issue that they had, you know. The issues of, in terms of safety, it was okay. They couldn't get people get burned or explode because of refrigerant. For them, it was a magic solution. Unfortunately, after some years, we realized that we are destroying our ozone layer. Then we stopped at that one. But today, we are going back where we started from. It's a good thing, right? Now we are going back to natural refrigerant. That's what Kigali Amendment is telling us. Yes, the most efficient of it is ammonia. And then we have also hydrocarbon and CO2, but there is some also technical issues using CO2, depending on the ambient temperature. Let's say in very hot countries, using CO2, it's causing some technical issues or some technical challenges, whereby we need to have some specific technology in terms of condensing the refrigerant. But in the countries where we have a colder ambient temperature, it's a very good choice of refrigerant. Next step, please. Talking about refrigerant, we have, for example, these packaged technologies. These are the ones, you know, when we went in the demonstration hall that we are using, they're using R290, which is a natural refrigerant. Next slide, please. Coming here again, as you can see in the below the slide, we have ozone depleting refrigerants that I said CFCs, but those ones, they're already phased out. We also have HCFCs, which are phased out too, but with HFCs that are being phased down. which means like for the moment we have equipment, like most of all the air conditioners, with HFCs, for example, RA410, RA04, but we can still use the equipment that we have in a country, but we cannot bring in more equipment having those refrigerants, which means like after some time, they are going to be out of, let's say, the market. No, they're already out of the market, but out of use. Now, we also have the HFOs that are in some, as I said, in some countries that are being used, but in Rwanda we don't have them much. Of course, they are being increased in some markets. Really, it's being increased because it's have a 0 ODP and 0 GWP. But of course, keep in mind the health issue that I said related to that refrigerant. Research are still going on to confirm that fact, to have accurate data on it. Thank you. Next step, please. This is a technical consideration that we can see in terms of efficiency, where it's not just only to consider the GWP of the thing, but we are just trying to compare some refrigerants on the efficiency, what we call coefficients of performance in terms of cooling, which is a good refrigerant that you can select. As we saw in the previous one, ammonia is a much preferable one. Let's see in the next slide. Yes, as you can see in this table, ammonia is the most efficient refrigerant. Of course, also it's coming with some challenges of knowledge, and you cannot say that ammonia it will be a refrigerant like the refrigerant R22, for example, which is HCFC. Using ammonia, you need to be well trained. You need to be really, really qualified. Otherwise, you will cause other problems. You can make people hate ammonia. That is a bad refrigerant, while it's preferable refrigerant. That's why we encourage everyone to get adequate training and the knowledge to be able to handle them effectively. Now, the same slide, please, go back. Thank you. Hydrocarbon also, it's a very good refrigerant. That's become the second in terms of efficiency. But also, for example, the refrigerant that you have at home, if you have a fridge at home of less than 3 years, I think I may say like 90% of chances it will be R600, which is hydrocarbon. And some of us will say, I heard that this refrigerant may cause accident. And I'm sure there is no accident, none of you, caused by your fridge. Because when we are considering using those refrigerants in the equipment, we are also trying to comply on the safety measures and regulations and everything. There are specific calculations to be done before deploying equipment with this flammable refrigerant in your house compared to space and everything that needs to be in consideration, which, as I said, 200 years back, those regulations and everything was not around or was not available. So the HF4 that I said, it's also a good refrigerant. Then comes the HFC, then CO2. You can see that in terms of efficiency, HFC is a bit higher than our CO2 because of the ambient conditions, as I said previously. And keep in mind that the HF4 and HFC, basically, they are composed by the same molecule. It's like the same refrigerant. But the chemical composition is a bit different, where we have single bond in HFC and double bond of carbon in HFO's refrigerant. That small modification in terms of chemical composition just changes everything. Next one, please. Now let's talk about another important fact of getting our system more efficient. And relating this to the ozone, someone may ask himself a question: how are we relating the maintenance with the ozone protection or ozone destruction? That's a simple question that anyone can ask. But you cannot have a cooling system without a proper maintenance. Let's say generally, from manufacturers, we have warranty of 10 years of compressors. If you are maintaining properly your system, because I'm only highlighting the compressor because that's really the heart of the system itself. If you don't do your maintenance correctly, you can get your compressor fail even in 2 years, in 1 year, in 3 years, depending on the various conditions. And what means when the compressor fails? It means that you need to call a technician. He needs to remove the compressor. What involves removing a compressor? I need to recover refrigerant, if I know how to do it, of course. Secondly, if I have adequate equipment. And most of the time what happens, a technician will come, will just remove and vent the air in the space. So what about now the protection of the environment? It started by a simple actions of maintaining something properly. Now, it may sound really not important to consider, but maintenance is really key. Next, please. Also, we need to reduce heat load because we need to get our system work effectively. Some of the heat load that we need to know that the source of the heat load, for example, we have transmission from solar. We have, for example, people entering the cold. This is an example of a walk-in cold rooms, but it can be applicable to any other thing. Of course, if the small fridge at home is not a walk-in cold room or a walk-in fridge, you can't go inside, but just keep that in mind. Maybe filtration with the doors open or closing. So these are also very important things to consider. If you're building, let's say, a cold room, consider to put kind of shading on it to minimize the heat that is going to affect your efficiency. And during the design, make sure the thickness of your insulation is really something that is going to give you that efficiency that you want. And much more thing to consider. Thank you. Next one, please. Another important thing is the choice of your equipment. Like, as we are talking today, if you need to go green in terms of refrigeration thing, you need to think about these refrigerant, as we are told by Kigali Amendment, natural refrigerant, for example. Not only that, but to have, let's say, factory assembled equipment, you minimize the chances of technician running the cable, the piping, brazing and everything, or the potential of the leakages, they are really minimized. That's why where you can have a factory assembled equipment, it's very important. Like the first one that we have, the river cold one, this one we have it in RBC already in Rwanda. This is good news. And it's using RA290, which is the natural refrigerant. The other ones, the two ones that we have them here at ACES. We have one at ACES in our equipment, which is also RA290, which is the good news too. Next one. Now, let's talk now about produce consideration. Temperature, it's really very important. Like, know that I'm dealing with this particular produce, what kind of temperature that I need to set or to, in terms of the need of cooling. Another important thing is pre-cooling. You can go and harvest your produce and just bring it directly from in the cold room with the field heat. You are going to interfere with the cooling capacity of your cold room. Because our cold room, they are not meant to quickly remove the heat from our produce. Our cold room are meant to maintain the optimum cooling temperature of our produce. So the pre-cooling is also going to help us to achieve our efficiency in terms of cooling in general. Next one, please. Same as the way we are keeping, how we are keeping our produce in the store, we need to make sure that we have adequate equipment like this kind of basket where we put our produce. Next one. As also the same, the packaging ways of how you package without causing the mechanical damage of your product, so that and also this kind of packaging that will allow the cooling, the air to pass through your produce. Next one, please. We also have issues with, if you can talk about economic models, for example, we have an issues of fast mile challenges. For example, how do we take our produce from field to the cold rooms or to the cooling facilities? That's also a big challenge that we have. Next one. Talking about economic models, for example, they were trying to show how we are increasing the values, the way we are increasing we are adding values in our produce, and also it increasing values in terms of money that actors in the agribusiness that will gain. as you're increasing the value of your produce, you're going to have access on high value market, and then so this is going to help not only in terms of efficiency, but in terms of what agriculture or associations or cooperatives they're going to gain on the activities. Next, please. As we can see here, for example, so we have smallholder farmers, and I hope everyone can see there. And then we can go to aggregation, package, and exporters. All of them, you're going to get, let's say, on the market, and they get money. But if there is no that cooling, cold storage, if it's not there, how are you going to make sure that the quantity that you harvested, you're going to maximize all of them on your market? Next one, please. Yes, so barriers to efficient cooling technologies. It's a cost. Everyone will say cost. But it will cost, but first of all, maybe we'll come back to it after. Understand, most of us maybe will be like, why do I invest in the cooling systems? Why that's going to benefit me? I'm in this business for years and I'm getting benefit. Why should I change my business model? One of the challenges too. Risk, lack of trust, other more familiar investment priorities, limited finance, split incentives, those are most a problem. But let me go back to the first one, the costs. Thank you. Let me go back to the cost one. So in terms of costs, we have an idea that investing in the cold system or in cooling technology is very expensive. Yes, it is, but you need to make sure that your design is correctly done. Most of the systems, you'll find that we're requesting larger cooling capacities than what we can really store in our cooling storages. If you do, let's say, a simple survey around, you'll find that the communities, they have bigger systems, and yet their production is very, very, very low. So if they're using that for a certain time, they found that really it's a system that they cannot recover the money that they're investing. So this goes around the business model around it, the technology, the design, and everything. Even though we are saying cost it is, but cost yes, but there is a way we can make sure that we can really mitigate that. But also another problem is, how do we have your system that is going to work enough time to recover all your investment? Next one, please. So let's talk a little bit about the economic model. We have ACEs. We are normally training the demonstrators, where we demonstrate exactly how things should work. We have private investment, explore markets, reducing wastes, feeding a growing population, local markets, and poorer communities. So considering those things, so we have a public, private, and the community all together, working together and trying to find really a business model that works and satisfies everyone. Next one, please. We found this very important. For all of us here, we invite you to go and look at that link there, Rwanda National Cooling Strategies. So we are going to look at more about what we said here, and even more about Rwanda is trying to do towards this efficiency cold chain. And also the one for International Institute of Refrigeration. You'll have more information about it. Thank you so much.
A round of applause to Basil. His presentation just reminded us that refrigeration is not a luxury. Rather, affordable cooling is a fundamental human right, essential for health, safety, and economic well-being, isn't it? Finally, it's my pleasure to introduce Craig Gardlestone. He's a technical director, Clean Cooking Network, for his presentation. Join me to welcome Craig for his insightful presentation.
Miriwe. So good afternoon to everybody, and I'd like to thank you all on behalf of ACES for attending today. It's been an absolute privilege that we've got to meet the new Minister of the Environment and the Director General of REMA. And for all the distinguished guests, we have the UK High Commission, thank you very much for attending, and we have UNEP, thank you very much as well. Our partnership at ACES has been a really moving, and for myself, soul-building. The experience that what we do at ACES really develops, and thank you, Basil, for your presentation on the refrigerants, because it outlined to all of us what we're doing at ACES. So what we're trying to do at ACES is we don't just want to choose one refrigerant as an example for what we're trying to teach here. We want people who have trained at ACES to go out into the technical field and anything that they come across, know how to handle it and to operate it at the highest level that they can. And that's the way we protect the environment, not just by choosing one item to teach people on, but let's train everybody that you know what you're going to be approaching, and then you are at the highest level for it. And that's how we protect the environment, when we all work together on it. Rwanda and the previous presenter, we're saying with car-free days and that, it's been an eye-opener what you do in your country. You are leading the way, and I thank you all for it. I think we should all give yourselves a round of applause for that. Next slide, please. So I'd just like to introduce myself. My name's Craig Girdlestone. I'm the technical director here, international technical director here at ACES. Under my remit, I cover Kenya and Rwanda currently, and hopefully we're going to be progressing. So with our partners that we have here at ACES, so the ACES was built on a partnership, 5 universities from the UK government, DEFRA, the Rwandan government and REMA as well, have all invested into making ACES what it is. So we are truly unique in what we're doing globally. And in Central Africa, we are now we are becoming a go-to place. You've all seen it as we've walked around, and you've looked at our new test chamber that we're building. So that just gives us something that is different to what anyone else has in the country, and it sets us apart here at ACES. So when we look at refrigeration, well, we call it the cold chain, because refrigeration is just a small part of it. So to try and have a sustainable cold chain, it involves all the practices. So it's everywhere where we're going from field to fork. And if you look at the cold chain, it does have its real negatives. So there's environmental harm. We know that. It's been engineered in. We're trying to engineer it out, but each time we come up with a new solution, we engineer it back in. And it's energy hungry. The biggest factor that's holding back the cold chain here in Rwanda, when I go out to the local communities, is the lack of energy and the ability to afford this energy, because they don't see any real value in why you would use this energy to redevelop yourselves and to grow your food chain, because there's no return on investment for them. So this is why every government across the world needs to use their supervision and their regulation as a stepping stone to try and bring the cold chain into time. And what we're trying to achieve is a holistic approach. So with planning and control, we can make the cold chain sustainable. And that is the key. It has so many economical benefits and social benefits, the cold chain, and it is critical infrastructure. We all consider electricity, lights, mobile phones now. If I asked my children now, they would say to me, the most important thing in their life is their iPhone. But this is how technology moves. And this is where cold chain, we need to look at it. It is critical to life here. Next, please. So there's been some really rapid growths in training. And as Basil mentioned, Rwanda's leading the way with their national cooling strategy. I would recommend that anybody interested in the field does read this. It gives you a real good guide to what is available, what you need to do as a technical producer, what you need to do. Covers the whole field. Next slide, please. Skip to the next one, please. Thank you. So one of the critical aspects that we're looking at with the food production in a sustainable cold chain is food loss. And we need to try and minimize food loss, because believe it or not, it has the biggest impact on all of us, even when you look at the energy. So food loss and food consumed is becoming more and more critical across the world, and we need to look at how we're going to be minimizing it. And this is where ACES sits as one of the great institutes that we've got, because ACES is looking at training, reducing waste, how to manage your crops, post-harvest management, business modeling. It's where our development's coming here at ACES, and with our training courses, we know we are leading the way. And I think there's a lot of people I've met today that actually have been on our training courses, and I thank you for it, because without your support, we cannot keep developing. And it's for the good of us all. Next slide, please. So if you look at this slide, this is one of what I call the worry slide for me. By 2050, we're going to have a 70% increase in global population. And this will impact everyone, no matter where you are across the world. There's going to be a demand for food, and that's another 2 billion people across the planet will be now looking, that need to be eating. We humans, we need to eat. We all enjoy a good meal. If we do nothing currently, we need to increase the food production in Rwanda by 15 times what we're doing now. By 15 times by 2050. That is huge. Because when you look at it, that equates to 21% of our land we need to increase. So we need to find 21% of land. I know Rwanda's already got a really great with their food basket initiative, which is leading the way, and it's great to see, but we've still got the future coming at us, and we're going to need more of this. So we need to do more. That's another increase in greenhouse gases by 16%. So this will keep affecting the ozone layer. So as we grow as humans from what we demand for food, this is going to have our impact on global emissions. And if you look at that, if we do nothing, that is going to be a 12% loss in GDP for the whole of Rwanda as a country. That is a huge amount of money that could then also be going into building better roads, increasing communities, building schools, building training centers. So what we need to do is we need to increase it, and if we don't start now, we will be at this, we need it 15%. But if we improve our cold chain, we'll only be having to look at 9 times the amount of expansion. So yes, we still have to keep developing, we still have to keep investing. But if we don't do it now, the cost will be much higher. Next slide, please. So when you look at the cold chain, it's a really complex chain. There's a lot more there's a lot more involved in the cold chain. So as we're developing the cold chain and it gets bigger, the cold chain has a lot of elements that are going to go into it. And when we want to take food, what we call field to fork, because that's where you go. So when you go to eat it at the end, it's how the food processes through this line. And we need to add value, reduce energy, and each of these components will add cost to your food. Don't get me wrong, it will add cost. But it gives us food security. And food security and sustainability in the long run, even though your food will cost you more now, it means you have the choice. It means you have the food choices. It means you have food at any time in your environment when you have weather changes. So we're not reliant on the weather change to then produce my fruit, for example. You can have fruit all year round. Okay, next slide, please. So I just wanted to give you a little insight into the history of the food chain. No more beer for him, please. So when we look at the history of the food chain, it's not a new thing. So this picture is taken locally from where I live, down in Southampton. This is on the Isle of Wight. And this is what we call an ice house. So this is over 4,000 years ago, that we were storing ice to preserve food. Because by preserving food, it gave us food security in the summer months or the winter months. And it was more economical to store. So while the harvest is plentiful, let's store the food. Let's make it last. So those times they used to naturally gather ice, put it into the ground, below the ground, and keep it with the food. And then that way they were minimizing the heat loss and the melting of the food. Unfortunately, in Rwanda, we don't have the option to go and harvest ice outside. Next slide, please. So as humans, we're very good at engineering for ourselves and how to find a way of increasing food and security and making money. Don't get me wrong, we're all here to make an economical model on it. So in 1803, Thomas More, he invented the first refrigerator. It was basically an ice box. We still use them today. And then refrigerated transport started to develop, because people suddenly saw that there was value. If you could take some butter and you could move it to a climate and the quality of it was really high, somebody would pay a little bit more because they knew the quality of what you are bringing to them is better than the other. Next slide, please. So then we moved on I look at it in the UK, global America, because that's where refrigeration started and started developing. So then they started building static ice houses and large production buildings to produce these massive blocks of ice that they could then use across the summer period. All year round we were producing ice. We weren't just waiting for the natural ice during our winter period. Next slide, please. So this started having an effect, because then we started developing chemicals to build refrigeration plants. And as Basil was saying, ammonia and hydrocarbons were leading the way. They were the first refrigerants that we were using, because they were plentiful, easy to produce, easy to find. They're natural. It means they're naturally occurring. They're around us. Unfortunately, we didn't have the engineering that we had now. And ammonia and hydrocarbons, they have their risks. Toxic, flammable, explosive, if not handled right, factor is very high. And that's why you need training. Training is what brings the safety factor in. We all have as Basil was saying, our refrigerators in our home. And R600 is common. It's a hydrocarbon. Propene, you can even cook with it, but there's only a small amount of gas in there. But they are flammable, and there is a risk that they could. But the engineering has got so good that the leakage rate is very low, and these systems are very reliable. And then, as you see, the history of refrigeration, as Basil said, we went through CFCs, HFCs, HFOs. Next slide, please. So when you look at that history of that food chain, we hold our hands up in the West, and we said we did the biggest damage to the climate. And this is where Rwanda leads the way, because you're looking ahead and you're not committing the same, it's basically a crime. It's a crime against humanity. So we were looking at it at the time. We were developing our cold chain, and it was all about the energy. Energy was cheap, readily available, so we could build our cold chain really swiftly. And we didn't worry about the environmental impact it was having. And then if you look on the other side of that graph, it just showed you the environmental then went down because our waste went up, our energy went up, the harm we caused to the environment went up. So we've definitely had a bad impact on the planet. Next slide, please. So then we started looking for a way forward. And the way forward is to change how we work as humans and what we use our equipment for, and to maintain it and to keep its sustainability. So this is where ACES sits. ACES sits in the point where we want to do training. We want to have well-structured processes. We want to teach people how to do the processing, how to build efficient systems, how to design efficient systems, how to select efficient systems. These are all the trainings that we do. And we want to have the minimal impact that we can. So any refrigerant is safe as long as it's in the system and it's controlled and it's managed all the way through its life cycle. The problem becomes at the end of a life cycle where you've put something in and you don't maintain it, and it leaks out and it has an environmental impact. And that's why training is so critical. Next slide, please. So there's always risks, as Basil just really touched on. And that's what we said, lucrative markets, as you will all know. Once we start increasing, the prices will increase for the food, and the quality of the food, as we increase it from the field, the export market will snap it up and demand it. And yes, we can see a real economic driver for GDP across the country as we increase our exports. But we must also look at, we still need to sustain our local market. And this is part of what we're looking at ACES with our CCH system, where we're doing. We need to ensure that the local market can still return some of the value that they have from what they're growing, what they're aggregating, and it benefits them as well. And that there's sufficient available in the local market to feed the local market, not just for export. Next slide, please. So we have an opportunity, and we're all part of this opportunity. But what we have to look at is we have to balance it between our ethical demands and our financial demands. So we have to ensure that we're reducing pesticides, building a great quality, reducing waste, increasing export value, but also increasing the availability across the year for local as well. You want to be able to choose your produce across the year as well. You want that selection. You want that choice. Next slide, please. So we identified through the ACES, we've done through some surveys and that, we've identified some needs that we saw. So agriculture, we looked at things from cropping to glutting, you know, when you just bulk it. And then your price of, if there was a tomato farmer, yeah, he would be able to tell you that in tomato season, tomato value drops through the roof, through the floor. And there's no value for what he's growing, and he will just sell it for what he can. But now we need to look at when we have these gluts, how do we preserve them? What other things can we do to add value to that glut? Sustain it for the whole year. Next one, please. So with agriculture, we need to increase the consumers. We need to reduce pesticides, polluted waters, roads. We have a lot of hurdles among us, but I like to say, let's look forward. Never look back. If we all work to go forward, don't worry what's behind us. We're all progressing to go forward. Next slide, please. So what we needed to do was start cooling, start the supply chain, so show why they use. So I've been around the country and I've seen quite a few cold rooms and that were built. They've not been used since 2018. I can see some of them that are still sitting dormant. And it's because the thought process was only at cooling. So the idea was great. We want to cool post-harvest. But in reality, the cold chain is more than just post-harvest. It's where is your market from the cold chain? Where is your grading and your sorting that will give the incentive to the exporter to want to buy your product from you? That's what we're looking at. And we want to reduce the transport losses, because you can put a cold room in Musanze and yet you want to supply to Kigali. And there's a long period of time. The roads could be congested. So how do you sustain your food chain all the way from Musanze all the way to Kigali? Thank you. Next slide. So then we looked at with our CCH that we're now currently building. When you're on your walkout, you can see we're building a concrete plinth outside. This is part of what we call our community cooling hub. We look at other ways. What can we do to process, to add value without cooling? So we include the cooling, but the food chain is all the way across. But at the end of the cooling period, how do we do it to sustain and preserve that and turn it into something of value? That it doesn't just rot and decrease our food waste and food losses. Next slide. So a pet one of mine is fish. I like fish. I always used to keep fish as a child. So when I look at fish, if you go up to Goma, we all know a lot of fish, a lot of availability, fresh fish, you can pick it up there. But when we did the research through ACES, we saw that there's only 1.32% of the production actually goes into cold chain. The rest is sold as fresh fish. But that means the sustainability and the length of time that fish is still able to be eaten is very small. So what we needed to do was try and increase the food chain, from transport of fish to storage of fish to eating of fish. But then there's also the education, because I know across this room, if I asked 80% of you, you would tell me fresh fish is better than cooled fish or frozen fish, I'm sure. But we've all got used to eating frozen fish. My children eat fish fingers. I've never seen any fingers on a fish, but they love them. But these are frozen and processed, and something that we eat a lot of in the UK. Fish and chips and beans, staple in our house. Next slide, please. And this applies to livestock. And I don't want to bore everyone going through all of our products and what we do. We all know where the food chain needs to increase. And what I'm just trying to identify for everybody is that the sustainable cold chain is critical infrastructure because it covers everything, all the way from livestock, meat, vaccines. What do you do with the meat when it's the fish? Excuse me. the milk when it's starting to turn. We should be making cheeses. We should be making butters. We should be clarifying it more. You know, there's a lot more products. Protein, whey proteins. I know in Yangi are already developing spray milk, which, guess what? It's all getting exported because you have good quality milk. So we need to look at how do we retain some of that into Rwanda. Next slide, please. And then that brings us down to the health sector as well, because the health sector is also critical to us. And it's not just about a vaccine being available and that, it's how that vaccine was stored, processed, kept all the way until it's from production to arm to animal. So we need to look at it, because if you can keep your vaccines and your biomedical, that also increases our production, our husbandry of animals. Next slide, please. So this was just a quick initial sum up of what we do at ACES. And this is where we were looking at it, because what we want to do is we don't just want your cold chain to be a Hi, yeah. So back again, sorry, the gremlins are attacking us. My voice changes with every single microphone, so that's great. I'm looking for the one that can speak Kiruandan, please. So here at ACES, what we looked at with the cold chain, because it's so inclusive, we wanted to make it all. So it's all about bringing it all together under one package, from business models to the environmental impact, from telemetrics with verification, to value protection, to monetization. You know, at ACES, we are the all-inclusive package here. We're looking to go beyond what everybody else offers. And I'm going to be honest, I'd love to see this in the UK. Training establishments like this, we haven't even got something like this. So that's going to round it up for me. Thank you very much for listening through my comments.
Thank you so much, Craig, for an insightful presentation. Please give our presenters another round of applause. This is now time for an open Q&A session, and I would like to invite all of us to join this session, which will be interesting, I think so. Please, if you have a question or any other contribution, please raise your hand, introduce yourself, and mention the institution you are representing, and then mention a presenter you are presenting your question to. I will request support from colleagues to pass microphone through audience, so we can be able to have a small Q&A session. Our three presenters, please join me on the stage so you can be able to respond to audience questions. Jean-Remy, Basile, and Craig, please join me on the stage. Thank you so much. Now, if anybody has any questions, any contribution, any insightful message related to the presentation we had during this session, please feel free to raise your hand, introduce yourself, tell us the institution you are representing,
and then address your question to one of the three presenters. Okay.
Thank you so much. My name is Jonas Munyurangabo from UNIDO. First of all, let me congratulate REMA, the Minister of Environment, for this very important event, which has brought us together to celebrate these occasions. To the presenters, the first presenter, I was wondering in your presentation whether you didn't try to look at, I would say, either topography, whether people living on mountains or people living in a flat area, in terms of air quality. Is there any reflection on that? Or it depends on the activities around the neighborhood that affect the quality of the air? I wanted also to understand whether there's any connection between the air pollution and noise pollution. I have seen they are both in one study, but I didn't know whether there's any interconnection between the two. To the second and last presenter, I think probably you can choose who to answer this. Of course, UNIDO, we are very much interested in industrial scale. Wanted to understand whether there's any local technologies in the cooling industry and cold chain. Probably you're trying to pilot as a made in Rwanda. And also from the trade perspective and consumer perspective, is there any kind of awareness that is being created so that whoever chooses to go and buy a certain product or certain refrigerator is already aware of the implication either on environment or on health at the same time? Because as of now, when I need a refrigerator at home, I just go to market, I'll be looking at the prices, of course, the quality, which ones last longer, but I don't really look at other health factors because probably I don't know. So is there any intervention on the consumer education side so that at least as we take a decision, there is, we are taking informed decision? Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Jonas, for the questions. Starting for the first one, if there is any connection, I mean, if we have take into consideration elevation in population density in our study. For the first, this study I presented here, we didn't take into consideration elevation and even population density, but in our current study we are doing so far, we have taken into consideration elevation in population density, NDVIs, and even the number of car stations, car stops nearby the stations, so that we shall be able to understand the variation of air pollution across the city. So far, the results are not yet ready, but in our coming publication, they will be in. So the second one was about if there's any connection between noise pollution and even air pollution. Yes, it is. For example, if a car passes by here, it emits air pollutants in the atmosphere. At the same time, also the sound from the car engine also produces or causes noise pollution. That's why in our study we consider at the same time noise and even air pollution. Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you. I will give a part of the answer to the question, and my colleague will complete it. So regarding the manufacturers of cooling systems in Rwanda, we actually have one company that is assembling some commercial and domestic refrigeration systems. I think there are always a way to, let's say, to improve things, but we can say that's one, yes, there is one in Rwanda already. And the second aspect of your question, which is how anyone will know exactly what refrigerant to buy, which one to choose between which and what. So we are lucky that REMA has been supporting this field for so long. And actually, there's a lot of awareness going on in so many ways, especially for REMA, that I'm not sure that, I can't say that anyone would find an excuse to say that I'm not informed about this and how to make a right choice. Another chance that we have, it's like all these, let's say, vendors on our market, all of them, they are known in REMA system. So before they go and import whatever they need to import, so they need, first of all, to send the specifications and requirements of what they need to import. Then REMA will approve. So this shows that in our market, the technologies that we have, they're really better in terms of regulation that we really want. I may also say another aspect for a specific, let's say on the technician side, the trainings that are being offered on the ACEs, also they will give, probably not the general public as awareness of REMA, but on specific people, let's say technicians and engineers, much more advanced knowledge that will lead on continuing having efficient equipment on the market.
If I could just add to that, because when we started looking to build the test chambers and the variable temperature rooms for testing here to meet RBS standards, what we looked at the time was to try and find the latest technology in hydrocarbons. And at the time, it wasn't actually available. So when we ordered that equipment that you're seeing there, Rwanda was ordered it first in Europe. So those were Italian manufacturers. And we were the first. So there was a long delay because they were actually still waiting for some of the technology to catch up. And more that we're looking at, you asked how we should be looking at technology. And we're looking at technology that we're saying the larger systems are not really where it's going to be. It's going to be small packaged units where a small contained charge, where the energy is performance monitored, and they take a lot less technical input for setting up, designing. Because if you look at a big refrigeration system is actually an R&D process. So you get it, you take all the equipment, you put it all together, and then the technicians have to try and do the R&D on site for the customer who's paid for that. And really what you want is equipment that's been tested and proven. And like we're working with the local refrigeration manufacturer here in Rwanda, who already has RBS accreditation on their fridges. But now they can enhance that by using our test chambers and to prove it. So when you, as a consumer, go up and want to buy a piece of equipment, you just have to look, and the RBS standard is there on the door as a sticker, and that will tell you that that is a good piece of equipment, it's energy efficient, it meets its requirements, and you're getting value for money. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for the insightful responses. Anyone with a question? Yes.
Thank you so much. I'm Francis Kayumba from Simerwa. Simerwa. Yes. I just have, I was curious about, this goes to the first presenter. I just have two concerns just for clarification. One is when you're setting up your monitoring or whatever the sensor to monitor, just to understand what were the criteria in terms of setting up or selecting the site of monitoring. And second, I'm just curious to understand the NOx sources, usually they are more from the combustion related. And I was curious to understand why is it that you are high during this, the dry, not throughout, because the source is still the same, being the rain or even the dry, because it is from the combustion and whatever the burning for cook stove or whatever the reason. And the second to the second presenters, second and the third presenter, just curiosity, what if looking at the, it seems we are recommending ammonia, which is more efficient and friendly compared to the rest. I was just curious about the productivity and competition, because ammonia just friendly even with agriculture, manufacturing explosives. What if there is increase in terms of the campaign to use it? What about the productivity and the risk of availability on the market? Have you been able to look at it. Thank you.
Presenters respond. Yes.
Okay. Thank you so much. I'm Innocent Mbonigawa, Program Manager of LEAP, Rwanda Emission Inspection Program. So my first thing I would request to the first presenter is to have specific and more study on vehicle emissions for better education of the emission from vehicles and also to educate vehicle owners and so on. For second presenters, so they did well and a good presentation, so I appreciate so much. And I would like to know in their training and the practices, so how they increase the vehicles, they have air conditioning. So I didn't see in their presentation how the ACs for vehicles and also how the future plan for repair mechanic. So how they handle those refrigerants from vehicles. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Let's go back to our presenters. The first question was addressed to Jean-Remy. Yeah.
Thank you very much for the question. He asked about the criteria we based on while we were setting up the location for monitors. One of the criteria was all about accessibility. You know that you cannot choose any location anyway, but you need first of all to understand where that location is. Is it really accessible or not? Can you travel there by bus or by foot? That's one of the first criteria. The second was security. You know that if you are installing the sensors outdoor, you need to think about the security because you cannot mount a sensor on a pole somewhere without checking the security over there if the sensor can last there maybe a year, 2 years, or a week. That was the second. Then those are the two criteria we based on why setting up the location. Security and even accessibility. So he also asked about the NOx levels were almost the same across the location, but as he said, the combustion is one of the main contributor to NOx. As I've said, for us, we were monitoring the outdoor air pollution for NOx, and the other things, we only just trying to see the contribution, especially the contribution from road network. That's why across the locations, we almost had the same levels instead of having, the big difference across the location. So the monitors were almost installed across the road. I think I'm done with you, right? Then the second one, sir, he said that we can also focus on specific vehicle emissions. So far, REMA is currently doing that, emission testing from cars in the road, and we really, we as AIMS, we shall be happy to be part of it, just to come up with some publications and even other studies specifying this car, maybe Euro 20 watt, they are the ones emitting much, or maybe the new ones are emitting lower. So we'll be very happy to join REMA team to work on specific vehicle emissions results. Thank you very much.
Thank you. If I could just add to our first presenters one on during the rainy season, you said that you saw the NOxes and SOxes will go down. And one of the reasons is if you have a lot of moisture in the air, it will be absorbed. But it doesn't mean the pollution's decreased. It means it goes into our water sources, because on a rainy day, you will still be picking up the sulfurs and they'll be bonding with the water atoms, and we will then be having sulfur dioxides and that into our water and into our grounds. So I just wanted to add that. Back onto the ammonia. So yes, ammonia, it's very efficient. The problem we have with ammonia, and we have it across the globe, is big ammonia systems are the only viable option. There slowly is an increase in air-cooled ammonia systems coming into the market as the technologies got better. So now we're starting to get smaller compressors that can handle ammonia, because it's corrosive. It eats away coppers and brasses, and it's difficult to manufacture it. Yes, it works at low pressures, but it's because of the corrosiveness of it. So would you see ammonia systems? You do already have them in Rwanda. I've been to a few of the people, had a look at their systems and what they have, because it is very efficient when you're looking at big industry. Will we see it in small industry? A few years ago, probably 10 years ago, they started to look at air conditioning units for them, and they moved away from it. It was just too difficult and cost-wise to produce. It may come back. What we always say about technology, it moves with demand. So if we get demand from consumers, technology moves. But the biggest driver at the moment on the natural refrigerants is actually CO2. And if you look at a country like South Africa, in Africa is leading the way for CO2, where all their supermarkets are CO2 basin. But here at ACES, as we were saying, we're not choosing one refrigerant. We're building our training modules that we can cover it all. So in our process planning at the moment, we're going to be building a CO2 training rig, and the future is to look for an ammonia training rig that we can build. Unfortunately, that is a very high cost item, so we've pushed that down to the end. But we will eventually have ammonia training here at ACES. What we want to do is cover training for all refrigerants. Thank you.
Sorry, I think the third question that was regarding the vehicle air conditioning. Yes, you're right. So one of the bigger portion of refrigerant that we have in the country, even worldwide, is also in the cars, in terms of not only in refrigeration, transport refrigeration, but also in the comfort, like air conditioning for cars. But this falls in what we call mobile refrigeration. So when you're talking about refrigeration, it's generalized either air conditioning, like these very good technology that are giving us a very good feeling that we are having now. We cannot remove our suit because the temperature is very cool. So this is also refrigeration, but it just is air conditioning. So when we are teaching people how to recover refrigerant, like the equipment that we have in a training center, it's also the same procedures. Of course, in terms of tools, it will change a little bit, but we have everything to demonstrate. When you are dealing with a car, when you are dealing with a cold room, when you are dealing with a fridge at home, all the same. Basically, the refrigeration cycle in terms of what we can call vapor compression, the cycle is the same. You are dealing with a fridge, you are dealing with a car, the same. So this question, so the answer is like we are training also mobile refrigeration, and that falls in that. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Any other questions? Okay, from behind, could you please pass the microphone? The lady behind.
Hello, thank you. Hello, thank you so much. Thank you very much for hosting this session today and for your insightful presentations. My name is Krista Ishimwe, and I'm from the Ministry of Health. And I wanted to ask some questions for both of the presenters. So for the first presenter, thank you very much for highlighting the growing issue of air quality in Rwanda. And for us in the health sector side, I think we have seen a sharp rise in respiratory cases in Rwanda. But as you mentioned earlier, we haven't always made the correlation between, or made the link between the air quality and the respiratory diseases that we're seeing. So I wanted to ask if in your research you've done any exercises to create that relationship, and if you've seen any relationship between PM 2.5 and rising cases of respiratory diseases, particularly in the urban areas that you're measuring. And then for the second presentation, for the cooling chain, also in the health sector, I think it's a technology that's very exciting for us, specifically for our supply chain and for our vaccine management. So I wanted to ask if there's any existing projects or testings that you're doing to see how ACES can work with the health sector in this particular, in the cold chain, and particularly for the last mile. So for the health sector, we focus a lot on having access to, for the last mile, so health centers and health posts, to be able to have access to vaccine management and things like that. So I wanted to see your insight on where we can work together in those places. Thank you.
We have two more questions from behind. Okay. Camille, yes.
Thank you. My name is Camille Nyamihana. I'm from RAPEP, but I'm a consultant. Actually, my question falls very nice with the one from Minister of Health. I was wondering to the question to Mr. Noel. We presented was about statistics on health and air quality. So for the PM 2.5 in Rwanda, and most specifically in the city of Kigali, we have shown that there is a trend of many increase. But my question also goes, how do you link with the health and some illness, including mental health? Actually, we are now facing an issue of having children on birth or under 5 years old, which has some problems. I'm not a medical doctor, but at some point, we do link it with the air quality in cities. So I would like to know if in your research, you will be also focusing on how the health is also combined with the climate change in cities. Because, and also coming with some resolution, I'm talking on a perspective as someone who have worked on the study of UNICEF and the Ministry of Health about the vulnerability of climate and health. And we found that there is more likely impact on some illness, including respiratory, as you were saying, but also some other illness which happened in the cities, so that we can have this recommendation in future researchers to include having some mitigation measures in terms of reducing this issue of health. And how do you work together with the Minister of Health, but or RBC? You know, in Rwanda we have those ministries and entities in charge of this. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you. The last question from behind.
Thank you so much. My name is Mugabe. I'm representing Surf Universal Link, an e-mobility private company. I have 3 questions. The first one will go to the first presenter. What lessons has Rwanda learned so far in tackling urban air and noise pollution? And where do you see the biggest gap that companies like ours in e-mobility can come into filling? The second question will go to the last presenter. How does ESES see e-mobility fitting into the sustainable cold chain ecosystem in Africa? Then the third question will be almost related with the person that asked about how you deal with the cooling system in vehicles. But this time I want to know whether you've done a pilot study on how this would be also integrated with e-mobility in terms of cars, because I understand the ICEs and the electric cars are slightly different. So have you done a pilot study on this? Thank you.
Okay. How many people remain with questions? 2. Let's respond questions from the 3 participants. Then we take another round of questions. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. Let me start with the question raised by Ashime, right? Yes, Ashime. She asked about if we have done any research assessing the relationship between air pollution and even respiratory diseases. The answer is yes, but it's currently under progress. Their results are not yet out, but we are currently working on it. That's the answer on that. Yeah. Then the question raised by Kamir, yes, if there is any work that link air pollution and even respiratory diseases, as I've answered Ashime, it is yes. We are currently working on it, and I myself am assessing the impact of air pollution on children's performance in schools, I myself. So I think I've answered you. Then the last one, Mugabo. The reason that Rwanda has ranked in urban air pollution and even noise pollution, is it? Yes. So far, when you look at Rwanda before monitoring air pollution, there was no information about the levels of air pollution, how people might get affected if they are exposed to those levels. But when REMA started to monitor air pollution, many research studies were out from UR, from AIMS, and other universities highlighting the impact of air pollution on a country and even residents, but as well on a country's economy. Because if you don't have the monitors to show the levels, even if someone is sick, there will be some money going there, and yet they are not supposed to be used over there without having, by having those data. The second one, he asked about how can e-mobility contribute to lower levels of air and even noise pollution, right? Yes, according to other studies from European countries, even America, we have seen that adopting e-mobility, e-cars, they have really contributed to lowering the noise pollution and even air pollution in a country. So here in Rwanda, as I've said, from the time we started to use e-cars, the levels have reduced, even though maybe we can do some road tracking, how the levels have been reduced. But if you do a general overview, we have seen that the levels have reduced by using e-mobilities. Thank you very much.
Thank you. So to answer to the health question that we had of how we worked with our health partners. So we have a One Health program here at ACES where we're trying to look at including, because we see One Health as fully inclusive. It's everywhere across the chain, from the vaccines to the cold storage of it to everything. So the One Health program, sorry, I'm not the best person to answer on One Health, but, but the One Health program is to bring it all. We see it under the One Health umbrella where all of these different entities come together. So we've started to do some work already, and we, with some of like RBC and other, but we are looking at some other suppliers for drones and healthcare, that we're looking at how we can help them with training, that you can have in-house training in country, so we can get the people up to the level that they need, because it comes across to the e-mobility question that you had, where I see Kigali or Rwanda is leading the way on drone dropping, and that now for commercial side of it as well. So it's going to be a combination of e-health and how we can do the training, but it's all down to training is where I think our impact is for helping with the One Health side of it. On the e-mobility side, you've already grown really fast. I look at the things, you have the delivery companies already, deliveries on bikes, deliveries on e-bikes, and we only see this growing. And across Europe at the moment now, we're starting to see it more and more, where we used to have the very large supermarkets, and they used to distribute from very large supermarkets, has now become down to very what we call regional small hub supermarkets. And this then fits in with the e-mobility in Europe as well. And it'll be exactly the same here as this keeps developing. And when we're looking at our CCH, so I'd like to talk to somebody about e-mobility, because we're looking at bringing that in as part of our business model and that as well, so that we'll have e-mobility charging stations from the CCH. And that's what I was trying to say. A community cooling hub is an all-inclusive. You know, it's from field to fork and every process in between it. So if we can bring the solar charging, the e-mobility, so it's not only harvest, post-harvest cooling, processing, packing, it all comes together, and that's what the food chain is. Thank you.
Just adding a little bit on that, as actually we know that we're having e-trucks all around. Even in Rwanda, actually, we have e-trucks around. So also our discussions is a thing that we are really considering, how to decarbonize also the mobile refrigeration, for example. So for the moment, it's very easy to have a truck with the batteries. So, you know, have it, let's say, the conventional engine of the car. And also you can get off the, let's say, the generator that gives you energy on the cold room once you're driving. We can also use a PCM, what you call phase change material. So there is technologies there already available, and it's something that can be considered.
Thank you so much. It is obvious that our presentation were very interesting and insightful, but as time is running, we are going to end this session. And join me to give another round of applause to our three presenters. Thank you so much for your time. And this is, I would like to let you know that the remaining question may be responded by the three presenters after this session. Feel free to join any presenter, then you ask your question and you will get an answer. Join me to invite the Deputy Director General of REMA for the closing remarks for this session. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, SPDA, for giving me the floor. Maybe before leading the closing remarks on behalf of the Director General of REMA, let me first of all thank all the presenters and react on some of the recommendations and questions raised during the last session. Looking at the first presentation, looking at the recommendations highlighted, I think the four of them are well aligned with the government of Rwanda priorities. The first one was expand ground-based monitoring network on air quality. As of now, we have around 21 stations all over the country, and we are expanding the network. We are this year we are adding we are purchasing additional 22 monitoring stations in addition to one reference station. So you can see that we are responding to the first recommendation you give from your study. The second was accelerating cleaner energy transition with different initiatives in schools. We are facilitating to make sure that they are transiting from firewoods to gas and other initiatives in different areas. Promoting Green City, we have a pilot Green City in Chinyinya, which is progressing well with the Rwanda Green Fund. If everything goes well, at least we can pilot what a green city look like, and people can emulate from that, and we climate-proof our cities, our secondary cities, and our satellite cities. Advancing research and capacity, that's the last recommendation. We have been relying on air pollutant inventory study we conducted in 2018, but this year we are commissioning another countrywide inventory of air pollutant, which is going to replace that one we had of 2018. So you can see that we are in line with the recommendations of the independent study, which is from academia. For the last presentation, we are much aware of the importance of the cold chain, and we are investing a lot in awareness. We have been working with different stakeholders, especially in building awareness of the public using different channels of communication. But we have been walking the journey together with technicians, refrigerators, customs officers, so that they can know which is supposed to enter in the country, which is restricted. So we have been having different sessions, and we will continue those sessions. So I want just to give you assurance that the government of Rwanda will keep doing its best to make sure that the cold chain is sustained. So on behalf of the Director General, let me give you the closing remarks for today. As we come to the close of today's celebration, allow me to reflect briefly on the significance of this occasion. For 40 years, the Vienna Convention has shown us that science and solidarity are powerful forces for change. The Montreal Protocol and the Kigali Amendment have turned that spirit into concrete action, protecting millions of lives and ecosystems. This is the proof that global environmental agreements can work and that they can inspire trust in multilateralism. Here in Rwanda, we remain committed to building on this legacy. Our work to phase out harmful substances, advance sustainable cooling, improve air quality, and reduce emissions is not just about protecting the ozone layer and addressing climate change. It is about safeguarding the health, prosperity, and future of everyone who calls Rwanda home. The road ahead requires innovation, collaboration, and persistence. But we have learned from the ozone story that when we act together, guided by science, we can overcome even the greatest environmental challenges. Let us therefore leave this celebration not only with pride in what has been achieved, but with renewed determination to do more for the ozone layer, for the climate, and for the generations to come. On behalf of the government of Rwanda, I thank you all for your commitment and partnership, and I wish you a safe journey going back home. And I reiterate the commitment of REMA and the Ministry of Environment to keep working closely with all partners, those who are here and those who are not here. On Friday, we have another big event where we are going to validate our nationally determined contribution, the third version, which is portraying the ambition and the target the country has for reducing emissions, but also building resilience of this country. So thank you very much and have a good evening. Thank you.